Today I want to talk about what is an addiction and how do you know if you have an addiction. I'm going to start by reading a few passages from a book called In the Realm of Hungry Ghosts by Dr. Gabor Mate. I want to start with this small passage. What is addiction really? It is a sign, a signal, a symptom of distress. It is a language that tells us about a plight that must be understood. It is impossible to understand addiction without asking what relief the addict finds or hopes to find in the drug or the addictive behavior. What then is addiction? In the words of a consensus statement by addiction experts in 2001, addiction is a chronic neurobiological disease characterized by behaviors that include one or more of the following: impaired control over drug use, compulsive use, continued use despite harm and craving. The key features of substance addiction are the use of drugs or alcohol despite negative consequences or relapse. So that's important. Let me say that one more time. The key features of substance addiction are the use of drugs or alcohol despite negative consequences and relapse. Okay, despite negative consequences. I've heard some people shrug off their addictive tendencies by saying, I can't be an alcoholic. I don't drink that much. Or I only drink at certain times. Or I can't be an alcoholic because I don't drink that much. The issue is not the quantity or even the frequency, but the impact. An addict continues to use a drug when evidence strongly demonstrates the drug is doing significant harm. If users show the pattern of preoccupation and compulsive use repeatedly over time with relapse, addiction can be identified. As helpful as some definitions are, like the ones I just read, we have to take a broader view to understand addiction fully. There is a fundamental addiction process that can express itself in many ways through many different habits. That's important, through many different habits. Not just the usual drugs and alcohol, also porn, also sex, also food, also TV, all kinds of different habits. The use of substances like heroin, cocaine, nicotine, and alcohol are only the most obvious examples, the most laden with the risk of physiological and medical consequences. We know that. Many behavioral, non-substance addictions can also be highly destructive to physical health, psychological balance, and personal and social relationships. So that's important, obviously. Addiction is, so this is a key thing here too. What is addiction? That's what we're asking right now. What is addiction? Addiction is any repeated behavior, substance related or not, in which a person feels compelled to persist regardless of its negative impact on his life or her life, his or her life, and the lives of others. Addiction involves 1, compulsive engagement with the behavior and a preoccupation with it. 2, impaired control over the behavior, powerlessness, unmanageability. 3, persistence or relapse despite evidence or harm. Okay, persistence or relapse despite evidence or harm. Okay, and 4, dissatisfaction, irritability, or intense craving when the object, be it a drug, activity, or other goal, is not immediately available. So that's important too. So let me reread that one. 4, dissatisfaction, irritability, or intense craving when the object, be it a drug, activity, or other goal, is not immediately available. Or I would also add, when you try to go off of it. So what he just said there in number 4 is the universal symptoms of withdrawal: irritability, dissatisfaction, intense craving when the object is removed, whether it's a drug, activity, or other goal. So compulsion, impaired control, persistence, irritability, relapse, and craving, these are the hallmarks of addiction, any addiction, okay? So I think that's a pretty good definition of what is addiction, and a pretty good overarching, all-encompassing goal of what is addiction, how do you know if you have an addiction, and a really great place to start. So anyway, I hope this helps you in some way, and I will see you next time.